pull up my slide. Wonderful. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give it just a minute or so for folks to trickle in. Thanks for joining us on this sunny Wednesday afternoon. I hope it's sunny where you all are. This is our fourth and final installment for the spring iteration of the Exploring Maine Industries webinar series. This series has been a collaboration between the career offices at Southern Maine Community College, University of Southern Maine, and Educate Maine's Maine Career Catalyst program. The goal of this series has been to support students' career exploration and understanding of the world of work in Maine. Each moderated discussion features a different Maine industry and a panel of experts, including employers, professional associations, industry advocates, or working professionals within a particular field. This series has been held on 4 Wednesdays throughout February and March of 2026. And the previous 3 sessions, for those that may have missed them or are interested or know somebody that is interested, the previous 3 sessions have been focused on blue and green careers, hospitality and tourism careers, and helping careers, so jobs in education, human, and social services as related to healthcare pathways. All 3 of those previous sessions have been recorded, and you can find them available on the career office web pages at USM and SMCC, as well as on the Maine Career Catalyst YouTube channel playlist. Today, we're so excited to kick off our Debunking the Myth on Manufacturing Careers session. We have a great slate of panelists, and it is now my pleasure to pass it over to the moderator of today's discussion, John Lewis. John, take it away.
Thank you, Hannah, and thank you all to all the students that are able to attend this webinar this afternoon. Welcome, and thank you in advance to our panelists that have joined us from a few manufacturers around the state of Maine. And we'll get to their introductions here in a little bit. First, I want to just introduce myself and talk a little bit about the Manufacturers Association of Maine and who we are and what we do. So I'm the executive director for the Manufacturers Association of Maine, also known as MAME, MAME. And we are a 61-year-old organization. We didn't originally start out as the Manufacturers Association of Maine. We were actually started out as the Maine Metal Products Association, which was a group of metal fabricators that went out looking for business. And then in the 2000s, early 2000s, we morphed into a more broader association and membership, and then became the Manufacturers Association. We are a nonprofit 501(c)(6), and what that means is we are able to lobby. So we spend quite a bit of time, especially this time of year in Augusta, trying to advocate for pro-business policies in the state of Maine. And then the other critical mission to our efforts is workforce development. Um, I think one of the reasons why we're having this webinar today is because the manufacturing sector, the manufacturing industry in Maine is experiencing some challenges in terms of getting people into the industry. And so, we have learned and found and learned that part of that is some of the perceptions around manufacturing and manufacturing careers, as well as the lack of awareness of opportunity. So that's hopefully what we're going to address today. Some quick statistics on manufacturing in Maine. So there are roughly 1,900 manufacturers in this state, believe it or not. However, 1,700 or nearly 90% of those manufacturers employ 20 or less. So it's probably not a surprise that the majority of manufacturers in the state of Maine are small, what would be considered small businesses. And so as an association, our job is to go out there and be that voice for them. They're not always able to get in front of everybody that they need to get in front of to talk about their opportunities. And so we are that voice and catalyst, which is interesting with Maine Career Catalyst. We use that word to spurring interest in this industry. Um, Manufacturing in the state of Maine contributes about 9% to the GDP, which is a pretty significant percentage, as well as employ 50, almost 60,000 people in the state of Maine. Some really interesting things that are made here. The most popular drumsticks in the world are made in Maine. If you've heard of Vic Firth, if anybody is a drummer or a musician, um, 90+% of bowling alley floors are also made in Maine. Anybody here a basketball fan and maybe a fan of Cooper Flag? New Balance shoes are made in Maine. And there's some very interesting things that are made here with represented by the panelists that are on this. And I don't want to give that stuff away because I would like them to do that. One thing I do want to share too, and this will be the last thing, I'll try to stop talking. Um, we are facing roughly a 3,000 worker shortage in manufacturing. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity from Educate Maine and University of Southern Maine and Southern Maine Community College for this opportunity to get in front of the youth because we do need more people in manufacturing. And I think, most people think production, but there's a lot of other opportunities. So with that being said, I am going to ask our panelists to do a quick introduction, and I'm just going to go in order of how I see it on the screen, and I'm going to start with Amanda. Amanda from FMI.
Hi there, my name's Amanda, and I'm the Talent Acquisition Manager at FMI. I've been here for a little over 4 years. And so FMI, we're located in Biddeford, Maine. I'm very proud to say we are a little bit over 400 employees now, which is a big step for us. But if you're not familiar, we produce and manufacture a high temperature composite material, primarily used for defense and space applications. So, John, thanks for not stealing my thunder. One of our most notable, I guess, projects that we've worked on is we are very proud to say that we produced and manufactured the heat shield for the Mars Perseverance rover right here in Biddeford, Maine. A lot of other cool projects that we've worked on is producing and manufacturing components for the launch abort system for Artemis 2, which hopefully will get to the moon soon. But again, about 100%, almost 100% of the work that we do is within the Department of War in NASA.
Excellent. Thank you, Amanda. Next in line, I have Ashton. Ashton, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about where you work?
Yeah, so my name's Ashton Lord. I am the new product introduction engineering manager here at Align Precision in Arundel, Maine. Align Precision is actually nationwide. We have 9 business units throughout the country from California to Maine. But in our main facility here in Arundel, we mainly manufacture precision machine components for the aerospace and defense industries, some semiconductor and gas and oil industries as well. But our main focus here in this building is precision machining um, parts. So
Great. Thank you, Ashton. And Anna, you're next.
Thanks. Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. My name's Anna Nadeau. I work for General Dynamics Bath Iron Works. We're located out of small town of Bath, Maine on the mid coast. We have just shy of 7,000 employees at BIW, but we work for a larger company of General Dynamics, and here we design, construct, and support DGG class surface combatants for the U.S. Navy, so warships. I started as an intern here, actually just going on a little over 2 years ago. I did my co-op through Concordia University, where I studied organizational development and human relations. I now work for our HR department doing a multitude of different things. I'm a generalist, so I'm focused on right now organizational development and change for the company, employee engagement, and then university relations as well. So Yeah, we're in the business of manufacturing, but we're also in the business of people. So definitely, Bath Iron Works is a great organization to work for. So thank
Excellent.
you.
Thanks, Anna. So, each of you are in the HR capacity or talent acquisition capacity, so you get to see a whole bunch of opportunities across the organization, right? And I think a lot of people, when they think of manufacturing, they're thinking on the production floor, right? I'm going to be building the product itself. While that is true, and while that is the greatest need in manufacturing, would you mind sharing with the audience just some of the other types of roles that you recruit for within, and feel free to touch on the production side of things too, because we don't want to ignore that, but also the other roles that you recruit for. So, Ashton, why don't you kick us off with this one?
Yeah, great. So actually, we have many different departments that throughout our facility, ranging from um, vertical and horizontal milling department, and then we have a multi-axis department, a lathe department. We also have quality. So we have an inspection department in our deburring and finishing area. So over the years, usually how people started here. Was people were hired and started out in deburring, and they would learn some of the key things that they would need to learn about handling parts and what to look for and what's okay and what's not okay about defects and things like that on a part, and maybe learning some of the quality aspects, and then kind of transitioning out onto the floor and learning how to run a machine from there. Something that we started doing this year, we had a position come up. We kind of created a position. So every machinist that we have here is responsible for setting up and running their machine. So when you set up a machine, you have to set up the tooling and get your gauging together and get your fixtures and all this stuff, get it ready to go. And then you set up the machine and run your parts. When they're done running their parts, the machinist is also responsible for tearing down all of that tooling and putting everything away where it goes. And unfortunately, that can be very time consuming on large setups and large jobs. So this year we decided we were going to hire somebody as an entry level position, and we were going to train them on how to tear down a tool and tear down kits and put fixtures away. And really, the skill level needed to do that is much lower than somebody that has to set up the machine. It's a much less critical thing. It's more of an organization thing, but it's also, we thought it would be a great opportunity for somebody to get their foot in the door that's interested in the industry and learn a bunch of the basics about what we do here. And I will be pleased. I am very pleased to say that we hired a gentleman this year that he's in his mid 50s. He's a veteran, and just decided he wanted to do a career change. He's always been interested in machining, but never really learned anything about it. And the guy is thriving. He's learned a ton. We've actually moved him onto a machine here and there. And it's been a great way to teach somebody about tooling and learning how to use measuring equipment. And he has also drastically increased our efficiency on the shop floor. So now when the guys finish, machinist finishes a job, they have a cabinet that they bring all their tooling and they're fixturing over to him, and he tears it all down and puts it away. And our tool room is much more organized, and everything's been a lot better. So um, I'm very pleased to say that's been successful, and we're actually looking into hiring somebody else right now to train and take over for him, and I can transition him onto a machine full time and get him learning some more of the machining aspects. So it's been a kind of a good entry level position. So
Thanks, Ashton. And I probably should just mention this. Uh, and if you want to go back, Ashton, and do some, I don't know, clarifying perhaps, but we should mention that we don't know what classes and what level like the students are that are watching us, so they may not be
yeah,
familiar with some of the terms
yeah.
that you're talking about. And so same thing for Amanda and Anna when it's your turn. If you wouldn't mind just kind of explaining what that is, like deburring and
Yeah.
things like that, what that means. If you
Okay.
want to just take 30 seconds, Ashton.
So when you machine parts and machining, we basically it's metal removal here, process here. So we start with a solid block of material,
Yep.
and then we're cutting it with CNC machines and cutting it into the shape on the blueprint. When the part's all done, there's a lot of things that we can't quite get the sharp edges and things off of the burrs off of the part with. So it goes to a department that we call deburring, and they actually go through and remove all the sharp edges and burrs that are left over on the part after machining it.
Great. Thanks, Ashton.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anna, how about you? Same question, not the whole deburring thing, but the same question as far as yes, let's talk about the production types of roles, but also what else? I mean, you're in HR, so you have other
Yeah.
departments over there at Bath Iron Works.
Yeah, absolutely. I was hoping you'd ask this question actually. We have literally just about any job you can imagine. We're hiring across all disciplines, all majors. When we think about BIW, it's a manufacturing organization, but we're really a small city within itself. So we have everything from our own in-house medical department to a fire department. We have our engineering department. So we have designers here, mechanical engineers, just about any type of engineering you can imagine we're hiring for. And that's all outside of the trades. So of course we hire machinists and ship fitters and all of that as well. So if you're interested in hands-on work, we have jobs for that as well. But yeah, myself, I started out in human relations and org development, and there's just been a multitude of opportunities here. I never thought that. I grew up in Brunswick, just outside of Bath, and I never thought that Bath Iron Works would have a place for someone like me with a very like human relations, HR focused background, but we have literally any of that. We have our training department, we have supply chain, our own finance department. So yeah, essentially just about anything you can imagine. And I would say the best way for students early on in their career is to come do an internship with us. So we have our summer internship. It's a 12-week program, and we post a general rec September through November, but that's always hiring across all disciplines. So essentially, we post it as an open internship, but we're really interested in any major that comes across our desk, essentially, as long as you're willing to learn, we can find a place for you here. We also encourage job shadowing. So our internship is a perfect opportunity if you want to see if you like working for a manufacturing organization and you want to see, say, engineering. We could place you there, but we could also have you spend time in our planning yard organization or have you spend time with our manufacturing planners who plan out the operational business side of things here for our trade workers. So we're really like all marching to the same mission, but there's just about like any job you can imagine. So yeah, we're
Great.
always hiring for a multitude of things.
Well, so having worked alongside BIW for a while now, it's an interesting number that I hear every year, which is we're looking to hire 900 people each year. Does that
Yeah.
900, is that only production, or does that include other departments as well?
Definitely includes other
Okay.
departments. I would say a majority of that is going to be in our production. It's
Yeah.
harder to find trade work, as you mentioned before, in this era of time. We struggle with that, but definitely we're hiring. Our engineering department is huge. So any type of engineering discipline, we're constantly hiring for. Our medical department just hired like five employees recently. So our recs on our careers page is pretty up to date. So essentially, if you get connected with us that way, you can essentially put in what disciplines you're interested in and get daily updates on what we're hiring for. But certainly, we're always hiring across the board, essentially. So we're trying to grow as much as possible.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I don't think that many people think about, yeah, I'm going to go work in manufacturing, but I'm going to be a nurse.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Or firefighter, right? Or
Right.
what have you. So that's, I think I don't think, I mean, I'm assuming here, but I don't know if many people on this in the audience have been thinking about that. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
I just thought of one other thing. We also previously we used to outsource our IT department, and that's another growing department right now. We're
Okay.
now shifting to insourcing that entirety. So any computer science, IT majors, cybersecurity, we have a growing department for that as well. So that's something that we're dipping our feet in, but definitely trying to grow in that area as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Amanda, I know, of course, we work close together too. And I know you've got some exciting things happening over there at FMI and looking to grow. I think most of those positions are in production, but, feel free to talk about that as well as some of the other roles that you're recruiting for.
Yeah, absolutely. And very similar to what Anna had mentioned about Bath Iron Works. I would say if Bath Iron Works is a small city, then we're like a quarter of a neighborhood. We're building a few huts. We're obviously a lot smaller, but yes, totally agree with Anna that it's not just production, it's everything that supports production. So it could be facilities. So thinking about electricians, plumbers, welders, HVAC, all of those positions are critical to keeping the operation running. Other departments that I think maybe aren't typical for manufacturing that people don't think about are, for example, here at FMI, we have a testing lab where they do non-destructive testing. So we actually do hire a lot of testing technicians and x-ray technicians that are perhaps coming from healthcare. And I know SMCC has a pretty robust radiology program. So again, we do get a lot of students that maybe thought they were going to go into healthcare, but still have those skills. Other departments that we're always hiring for could be data analytics. It could be very similar to cybersecurity, business intelligence, as well as all the normal departments that you would think about within, a manufacturing organization. Engineering, research and technology, production out on the floor. And to your point, John, I don't think anyone wakes up and says, "Man, I can't wait to work in manufacturing." I never in a million years, I always thought it was dirty, it was gross, scary, and unsafe. Never did I ever think that I would be in manufacturing. I used to kind of think of, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Jumanji, and there's a scene where there's just a factory and they're all making shoes and they're just like doot 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 doot. That's what I thought manufacturing was, and it really just takes asking questions, not being afraid of being embarrassed, and just putting yourself out there. And I've found a really rewarding career in aerospace and defense manufacturing, and it's newsflash, it's not dirty, it's not unsafe. It's very safe, very clean, and very advanced. Um, but the bulk of our needs are in production, and arguably one of the most departments. I mean, that's where all the magic starts. So similar to Anna, we are hiring for all positions pretty much at all times. But at FMI, we're very fortunate to know that we've got a lot of growth on our plate. We're expanding next to Costco. We're building out a center of excellence across the street, and we've got some more building sites being planned out. So we're very lucky that we'll have a multitude of positions across different departments.
That's excellent. And I'm glad you brought up asking questions because I just want to let the audience know if you do have any questions that come up, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A function of the Zoom feature here. So thank you for reminding me of that. This wasn't one of the questions that I had planned out, but because of the things that you had said, it reminded me of an important conversation that I've been having with others around the state, which is around AI. And so, and youth especially, I think are more, they're growing up with it, right? They're coming into it. AI is becoming popular now. It's being more widely used and all of that. And so how can you each of you talk a little bit about how AI is impacting your organization, whether that is on production, which may not necessarily be the case yet, but definitely in the back office, if you will, right? The quote unquote white collar jobs. So Amanda, why don't you start with that?
I don't know if this is fortunately or unfortunately. However, based on the nature of what we do, which is, primarily Department of Defense work and R&T. Unfortunately, we're not able to use a lot of AI tools internally, probably very similar to a lot of other manufacturers in the defense sector. But what we see, especially on the talent acquisition side, is that a lot of people applying, a lot of candidates are using AI. They're using AI to find us. They're using AI to interview or craft their resumes. And I think AI is a really amazing tool, but to all of the students that may be listening, remember that it's a tool and it's not an end all be all. So it's kind of a give and take as far as from a talent acquisition standpoint to kind of what's too much, what's too little. So just be really mindful of how we're using that tool and what you're asking it to do. But I will say from an internal standpoint, especially in talent acquisition and, in marketing and communications, it's been really interesting to kind of see how do we leverage AI in marketing or recruitment marketing to ensure that people find us. So it's definitely been a new frontier. A lot of what we do are legacy contracts where I'm not going to say we're behind, but probably very similar to Anna. When we have a government program and we have to do it exactly that way, it might be for 50 years that we're doing something in a particular way or a particular process. So it's not like a lot of people may think, hey, can't you just use AI or can't you, automate that? We could, but sometimes that's not, available just based on the nature of what we do or what we're producing.
Okay. Anna, do you want to answer that too?
Yeah, my response is going to be probably very similar to Amanda's. Due to the nature of the work that we're doing at Bath Iron Works, we're not able to use AI as much as probably other organizations are. I will say that we are dipping our toes into that area. With the change of times, we're being pushed to build faster, produce more, be innovative. So we're definitely more open to the idea of AI, and we're trending in that direction. It's just with the cybersecurity things that can be surrounding AI, it definitely is a barrier for us in that regard. But yeah, we're definitely dipping our toes. Like for myself in my role specifically, we're working on a large organizational development initiative for the company, and our company has been open to using AI to harvest all of the employee feedback that we've gotten through that initiative. So yeah, so we're using it for things like getting feedback from our workforce and
Mhm.
helping it develop solutions based on their feedback, essentially. So harvesting and doing an analysis on data. But in terms of larger scale things, and we have to be really careful about the AI we use. And I will say the AI that we are using right now is a little bit behind the times, and it's on like a localized
Oh, yeah.
thing. So it's just, I think we're trending in that direction. Definitely more open to it. But I will say, like, jobs are not being replaced with AI in our company anytime soon. So that's a great thing to consider when looking for jobs is look in manufacturing and look in the defense industry because there's going to be still lots of jobs and growing is a growing industry every day. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ashton, I don't know if you want to touch the AI question, but I'll just add another piece to it, which Anna alluded to is, and we can go back around and it could just be a yes or no answer to this, which is, do you foresee robots or automation or AI replacing people?
I do not, no. I think it's going to be a useful tool as it develops. I know here at Align, again, very similar to what Amanda and Anna said, we have to be careful on how we're using it and what we're using it for. But I know that currently we're working with an AI software that helps us quote. So it'll actually look at a blueprint and give us a rough estimate of time and things like that and material size and all that kind of stuff. So ahead of time, before we actually dig into the logistics of a quote, It can help you with that. It also there's a lot of CAM softwares nowadays, CAD CAM softwares that are working with some AI to help program. So again, it's not going to replace the engineer and the programmer, but what it will do is it'll get the part, for a more basic part, it'll get it 80% of the way there, and then the engineer can take it and fine tune that process before it goes up the floor. And the other thing I would like to kind of highlight, and that a lot of our engineering department here and the more of our NPI technical guys have been working through some problem solving using AI. And it's a quick tool to have. I mean, you can use your computer or phone to quickly look up a question or something that you're struggling with, like on a technical side of things. And 9 times out of 10, they'll have some sort of answer for you that's pretty close. So it'll
Yeah.
at least head you in the right direction for you to kind of start figuring things out. And
Yeah.
it's definitely a nice tool to think about and use to work through things sometimes. So
Excellent. Yeah, I would, all three of you had said you have to be careful on how you use AI. I would think that every professor or instructor for these students are also saying you got to be careful on how you use AI. So thank you for that. And it just so happens it's a coincidence that the three of you are representative defense manufacturers in the state of Maine. However, with that being said, it is a big need. If you are somebody who is thinking about, how can I serve my country, and may not necessarily think about the military, or maybe you tried for the military but didn't qualify, manufacturing is definitely a way that you can serve your country for sure, especially in defense manufacturing. But healthcare, pet healthcare, I mean, semiconductors. I mean, Texas Instruments making semiconductors that are in our phones and computers and all of that stuff. There's tons of opportunity out there in manufacturing. So I know we're getting short on time, and there's a lot of questions, but I believe we're having a great discussion. But just real quick, what skills? So obviously students, they're going to college, or they're going into some type of training program to get some hard skills, if you will, right? What, they might be going to become a welder or an engineer or what have you. So aside from that, what other skills or competencies or characteristics would you be looking for in a person that, because they have those things, those qualities, they're gonna not only enjoy being in manufacturing, but succeed. So, Anna, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the number one thing I'm always looking for, and I think as an organization as a whole, is just openness and willing to learn and curiosity. Truly here, like knock and the door will open. We see a lot with our employees here. They'll start in one part of the organization and move to an entirely different department by the end of their career or throughout their career. So I think at BIW specifically, we're hiring for jobs, but we're building careers here. And it's not uncommon to see people that will stay here for up to 40 years of their career and do a multitude of different jobs while they're here. So I would say, sorry about that. I would say like curiosity and grit, and like openness to opportunities and just being curious and asking questions. It's if you're in a room where you're, maybe lost or confused or have a lot of questions, you're in the right room because that means that you're going to grow. So be the one to ask questions wherever you are. And I've seen that in my early career here as well, because I'm just starting out. And I've noticed that the more questions and the more open you are to taking whatever opportunity comes your way, the further you're going to go. So, yeah.
Okay. Ashton, how about you?
yeah, obviously there's a lot of technical side of precision machining that mainly we find the best way to teach people is on the job training. An understanding of the basics is great from school. I'm an example of that. I went to vocational school in high school while I started working here, and then worked into actually going to Southern Maine Community College for the precision machining, and then worked full time while I was doing that, and ended up going back to school, getting my engineering degree and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of kept working my way up in the business. But all the all the characteristics that we're really looking for people nowadays is some of the some of the characteristics that I feel are lacking, and some of those are attention to detail, and like Anna was just saying, that willing to learn and put in a little bit of time, and to listen to people that have been in the industry for a while, and take what they have and try to run with it and learn. So if you're coming out of school, or I don't we have people from all over here in the audience, but if you come out of school with a little bit of the basic understanding, and then come in with an open mind, and be willing to maybe do a little research on your own and look into things, and maybe want to, if there was an offer of some sort of GD&T course or something that, that we would send you to put a little skin in the game, and want to, show that you want to move forward with the industry. And that's a lot of what we're looking for nowadays, because we feel we can kind of train the skill. It's those key characteristics that we're really looking for.
Okay, thank you. Amanda.
Yeah, I would agree with both Ashton and Anna, but I think, yes, the grit, I think it's also important to have integrity and have empathy and be passionate. Just like Ashton had mentioned, we can teach candidates, a lot of new hard skills. We can teach someone how to code. We can send them to school to, learn about lean manufacturing, but it's really hard to teach someone to have more integrity, or those are definitely harder characteristics to change. And in the nature of everything that we all do at all of our different companies, integrity and being willing to raise your hand when you've made a mistake and own up to it, I think that's super important when we're thinking about the attention to detail and the precision and the costs it takes to make all of the things that we're producing and manufacturing. That integrity and the passion to doing the right thing, and empathy. Someone could have 20 PhDs and be the smartest person in the world, but if they don't have empathy, it's not going to be helpful to the company. Um, Really, we all need to work together to be successful. And all of the companies that we work for, they're legacy businesses when none of us are going anywhere. So again, you can have all the PhDs in the world, but if you lack empathy, it's going to be really hard for the company to succeed or for your team to succeed. So I definitely think those are important soft skills to have.
That's very interesting. Thank you. So I think what I'm hearing, the common theme here is if somebody's willing to learn, open-minded, has passion, has empathy, it doesn't matter. I mean, yes, the hard skills can be important, especially for, some of the technical occupations and things like that. But even that, you're willing to train the right person. So if somebody were to say, I went to school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to study, but I'm doing this because it sounded interesting. But now I'm like, wow, now I'm hearing the manufacturing sounds really, really cool. I don't have to worry about the degree that I have. I can, if I'm the right candidate, you're willing to train them. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah. Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, so we're getting running out of time. Before we want to open it up to some questions from the audience. Um, Advice for students. Thinking back on when you first started, and some of us just recently started in their careers, not me. But just thinking, we've got a wide range here. And so thinking back as when you first started, exploring the world of work and thinking about what it is that you do, or now, and you made your way into manufacturing. And I know, Ashton, you shared a little bit about your pathway there. What is a bit of what is one bit of advice that you would want to share with the student audience today? Amanda, let's start with you.
I would say one of the biggest things is don't be afraid to start over or try something new, especially when it comes to manufacturing. I made a big career change. I was in hospitality for over 10 years, and I hate to say it, but I'm knocking on 40's door, but I made a complete career change, in my mid 30s. So don't be afraid to try different careers, to try different industries. You never know. Manufacturing might be the one that you want to be in. I'll be honest, I was afraid of being in manufacturing because I was like, I don't want to break any nails. I don't want to like have to cut my nail. It was this kind of stigma, this narrative I had in my mind, and it ended up being the right fit for me. And it's honestly the best job I've ever had. So don't be afraid to start over. And it's okay to start over in your 30s, 40s, 50s. I've got a degree in something completely unrelated to manufacturing. And that's okay. So don't be afraid to start over, try something out. And everyone on this call, all of these employers, we all have such great benefits. We all have tuition reimbursement in some capacity. There's so many opportunities to try something new and try it out. But having those soft skills, the grit, the passion, the willingness to learn, make sure you also give it a chance to try. Don't just, join a company and say, hey, in 4 months, I didn't it didn't work out and quit. It's going to take time, especially thinking about what Ashton and Anna, the companies, what they're producing. You don't learn GD&T in a day. You don't learn, how to deburr in a day. Make sure that you give it time, give it a year, to really, vet everything out and decide whether it's for you or not.
Thanks. Ashton, you want to,
Yeah,
what's a
I'd
little
like
bit of
to
advice? Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to kind of piggyback what off of what Amanda was just saying about giving it time. It seems like it was yesterday that I was walking in the door here and didn't really know much at all, and it seemed like some days seemed like it was going to take forever to get to that point of being one of those higher level guys in the shop. And now looking back, it seems like it was somebody snapped their fingers and it just happened instantly. But
Mm,
sometimes it takes a little time to learn things, and if you're somebody that's willing to put in the effort and put in the time to learn some of the key basics that you need to, it kind of starts working for you, and it'll kind of work its way through on its own. And I think that's something that maybe a lot of us younger people and even the up and coming generations are, we're used to this instantaneous life. So everything's at our fingertips and everything is instant. And sometimes you have to put in a little bit of time to kind of get where you want to be. So give it a chance. And um, it's really a great industry to work in, and it's always changing. The technology is going to be better and better every day. So
thanks. And Anna, one of the newer to the career work world. So how
Yeah.
about how about for you? Because you're closest, in age, I guess, with our audience.
Definitely. I'm just gonna again double down on what Amanda and Ashton said and just say, like, definitely that first year or so, if you're anything like me, a manufacturing organization, is definitely outside of your comfort zone, or for me at least it was. And I would say that discomfort is just growing pains, or I like to call them. And you could feel growing pains when you're here, but when you get on the other side of those challenges, like it's a win for sure. And I would just say if you have a growth mindset, and are just a positive attitude, we're in the business of building things, all of us as manufacturers, but I said this earlier, we're in the business of people. So if you can have a positive attitude and learn how to work with other people and just have that growth mindset, you're already bringing a huge addition to the organization, no matter what hard skills you have. So obviously, being new in your career like myself, I don't have the credentials or the years of experience that a lot of the higher level managers or directors or executives that I'm working with have. But if you have that willingness to connect with people, and genuine care for everyone in your organization, you are going to move mountains. So I would say just having that willingness to learn, willingness to connect and learn from anyone that's around you, and just genuine care for the other people that you're working with. Um, those growing pains are going to be so worth it, on the other side of things. So yeah, that's my 2 cents, and I'm still have growing pains sometimes, and I think that everyone in their career does, no matter where you are in your career, and I think like seek that discomfort so that you can come out even better on the other side of things. Always seek that new opportunity that's going to make you uncomfortable. That's always growth. So that would be my 2 cents.
I
You know,
feel you on the growing pains.
I'm lucky in my position, in my role, that I get to visit manufacturers all around the state. And I have had the pleasure and opportunity and pleasure of visiting all three of your organizations. And one of the common things that I've taken away from those visits is how valued the people feel being there and being part of a team. As we're going on a tour, right? It's like a first name basis, or, it's like, yeah, so and so here, just had a baby or just had a grandchild, what, like you really know the people. So even like an organization with 7,000 people, I still
Sorry,
felt,
into the front lobby, please.
oh, I still felt the family-like culture, if you will, in in your facilities. And I think the manufacturing industry kind of lends itself to that because you're all part of a mission. And there's the greater mission for the three of you. There's the greater mission of national security, but the mission is we got to serve our customer, and that customer may be, right, the US government, it may be Bath Iron Works, it may be NASA, it may be, right, it may be whoever, right? And so everybody's working towards the same goal and same mission. Is that something that you would agree with?
Yeah, definitely. I would say like I totally resonate with the family oriented thing. And I will say here at BIW, like we're building something that's or competing globally. We compete for our ships, but we're building locally. I always say that because we're such a small town, and you'll see that a lot of the people that work here have a strong family legacy. They have grandparents or cousins or literally do have actual like bloodline family that work here. And so that kind of like lends its way to that family oriented feel. And I would say that everyone here is kind of willing to help and lend a hand to one another, no matter what part of the organization you're in. We tend to be, very collaborative. And I would imagine these other manufacturing, Amanda and Ashton, you can probably agree to this. We have different disciplines and departments across the organization, but there aren't many silos. Like we're pretty good at breaking down those silos and coming together as an organization to support that greater mission and support each other as well. So definitely feels like a family.
Thank you. Ashton and Amanda, if you want to add to that.
I think as we're kind of getting to the end of time, I really think that, we might not, FMI
End of
might not be for
time of the
everyone.
webinar, not end of time of.
Oh, yeah, yeah. End of time of the webinar. But yeah, I think, FMI might not be for everyone. But when we think about those 1,900 manufacturing companies in the state of Maine, it might not be FMI might not be for you, but you might be a great fit for Bath Iron Works or Align Precision. So I think overall, like I'm hoping that, the message I want to leave is that manufacturing is not what you may think it may be. And there is a product, there's a value stream, there's a company out there for you within manufacturing. It might not be FMI. You might want to, help support, the warships and, the government that way, or, precision machining. But overall, I think Maine, when we're thinking about Maine as a big family, we want to keep people in Maine We want people to know that there are so many great opportunities. And again, chances are there is a manufacturing company out there for you that's going to be a great fit and give you a great life and a great career, to be able to raise your kids or raise your dogs or cats or chickens or whatever it may be.
Yeah, there are 1,897
Yeah.
more manufacturers out there
Yeah.
that you could work for. And you're absolutely right. I think, for me, I'm selfish, right? I represent all manufacturers in the state of Maine, and I don't care where you go to work as long as it's in manufacturing in the state of Maine, right? And so I'm glad that we are able to to have this discussion. So I haven't seen any questions pop up in the chat or in the Q&A. So there's still time for that, audience, if you want to do that. But let me ask you one last question, and we've got 8 minutes, and I want to be able to say thank you to everybody before we abruptly get ended here. How has working in your field and working in manufacturing helped with you professionally, not only professionally, but also connecting with your community? So, Anna, I mean, I know it's been short-lived so far, but do you have any insight as to that?
Yeah, that one stumped me a little. I will say, like I mentioned before, thinking of Maine specifically, I think working in a large organization, or in manufacturing, there's a lot that we're able to do for the community, and like with our local partners. So I think having that ability comes with working with a large organization. And if you're able to do that, it does feel good to contribute to a larger mission, like supporting the Navy, but also if we're able to support locally, that always feels good to give back as well. I think within the community of Bath Ironworks specifically, and back to that family oriented thing, they do a lot for like employee engagement. So like on Thanksgiving, they hand out turkeys to every employee. So things like that. But yeah, I need to think on that question a little
No,
bit.
I think that was fine. That was fine.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I do know that a lot of companies, yours included here, do give back to the community in other ways, like charitable giving or,
Right.
sponsoring the Little League team or what have you too. So, Ashton, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say that one of the biggest things I've noticed since working in the industry is that every everybody that's been here for a while and been doing this for a long time is super proud of what they do, and they hold themselves accountable and take a lot of pride in what they do every day. It's very important work that we're all doing here, and it's plays a pivotal role in many different industries, but as well as our military and all those things. So taking pride in doing some of this work is super important. So.
Thank you. And Amanda.
I think definitely being in this role, and I'm definitely out there in the community. And I think the biggest thing is, yes, FMI is where I work and I'm very passionate about it. But firstly, I'm a Mainer and I love Maine and I want to stay here for the rest of my life. And so for me, just having the opportunity to be in the community and just share about the opportunities to hopefully entice people to stay, live, and work in Maine, is really important to me. And even Ashton, I've connected with a couple of people at Align. We're very collaborative in Maine. I think it's so
Yeah.
important to put ourselves out there because something might not make sense for us at FMI, but it might make sense for someone at Align, or it might make sense for someone at, Bath Iron Works. So I think just getting out there and being able to have this opportunity to connect, especially, Anna and Ashton right here, it's like something might not be for us, but we might know, for example, a great candidate that says, I'm not really crazy about X, Y, and Z, or maybe they were, the position got closed. It can always be like, hey, Ashton, I've got a great X, Y, and Z. So I think just networking and putting yourself out there, we're not competitors. We're all working towards the same mission. And in this case, it's protecting, defending our country, but also, providing jobs and stable incomes and careers to Mainers so that we can all stay in Maine and have this great life.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, I think we've got 4 minutes left, so I just want to thank you very much for participating on this panel. Want to thank all the students that either participate live today or will view this in the future. I think your contact information will be shared with the students. And if we'll make sure that that happens. If anybody's interested in learning more about each of these three organizations, or if you want to get connected with other explore other manufacturers around the state, my information I'm sure will be shared as well, and I can always make connections. But I want to thank the three of you for being here, and thanks to Educate Maine and USM and SMCC for putting this on. I appreciate this opportunity. And I definitely look forward to having further this dialogue. I think this is a necessary uh, effort, and I'd be interested in doing more if students are also interested in learning more. So thanks again, and we've got 3 minutes left, so I don't know if we want to add one more thing from each of you. If not, that's fine too.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you so much for having us. This is, as Amanda was mentioning too, like a great opportunity for us to learn more about each other and each other's organizations, and certainly, definitely going to keep your contacts in mind if I have students that I, converse with, and it's a good fit for your organizations too. So I really appreciate this, John, and Career Catalyst as well is a great opportunity, and I look forward to continuing to grow these relationships as well, 'cause it's huge. So thank you.
Great. All right. I guess Hannah, you wanna end us?
Wonderful.
Not
And the
literally.
call, not us.
Yes, yeah.
Love the jokes. Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your time and your expertise and helping Mainers across the state understand how exciting and vibrant the manufacturing industry in Maine is. So with that, I hope you all have a terrific rest of your day and get out and enjoy the sunshine in the spring in Maine.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.